Welcome back to Always Ageless, where we explore how to live a vibrant, full, and meaningful life at any age. I'm your host, Valerie Van de Zilver, and today we have an incredibly special guest with us, Angela Fairhurst, the founder and CEO of Geri-Gadgets. Angela's story is nothing short of inspiring. A highly respected entertainment producer and writer, she slipped away from that world when her mother was diagnosed with dementia. This life-changing experience led her to create Geri-Gadgets, a company dedicated to providing safe, engaging, and sensory-enhancing products that bring comfort and joy to aging adults, their families, and their caregivers. We're going to dive into her journey, how she turned a personal struggle into a mission-driven business, and how Geri-Gadgets is making a real impact in the lives of seniors and their caregivers. If you ever wondered how you could take an idea and bring it to life and turn it into something really meaningful, you'll want to stay tuned and listen to Angela's story today. You won't want to miss this conversation. So grab a cup of tea. If you're driving, turn up your volume, get comfortable, and let's dive in. Welcome, Angela, to Always Ageless.
Thanks for having me today.
You are very welcome. We're very excited. When I saw your product and read about you, I knew that we would want to have you here to talk about it on Always Ageless. So, Angela, you had an incredible career as a producer and a writer, is what I've read. And I've seen some of the exciting things you did. I wish I could have been a part of those.
Yeah.
What was the defining moment when you knew you had to leave entertainment behind and step into the world of senior care and what we also call age tech?
Well, and honestly, I mean, I had to earn enough money to make it happen, truthfully. But last year, when I got the products to market, is when I really had to go full bore in leaving television behind to launch Geri-Gadgets because you can't really be a part-time entrepreneur when the products are at market. It takes 110% of your time. And so does television production. So you don't have 220%. It doesn't exist. So that's when I decided that I had to make a choice. And, honestly, making a difference on the planet matters. I think entertainment's important. You do have to entertain. I think making people laugh and smile and engaged in entertainment is important, but I think this is globally even bigger. And so to me, I want to leave the planet making a huge difference that way. So I made that decision last year, and that's it. That was a defining moment, really. But I mean, I knew that I was onto something when my mom got dementia, and I really, after 4 years of frustration, finally was able to reach her. And we can get more into depth of that, but
Yes, we will.
I knew Geri-Gadgets was something I had to bring to market.
What do you think it was about your work in entertainment that helped you create your mission of Geri-Gadgets and ultimately then get it, which we're going to talk a little bit more about later. But what about you? You had been in entertainment, you'd been in production. Do you think there's one thing about that that helped you the most?
Well, I think as a producer, and specifically, I think I'm a left brain, right brain person, and an exec in charge of production is a problem solver.
Yep.
And I am tenacious. So if I have a problem, I'm going to figure out how to solve it. And I've learned that the line from A to B is never straight. So no matter what, I don't give up. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to get there somehow, some way. And no matter how long it takes, or no matter what, I'm going to find that key and figure out how to get that answer. And that's really what it took. I just didn't give up. I was going to figure something out. I was determined. And I think that determination is what found me Geri-Gadgets in the end.
So certainly your mother's journey with dementia clearly changed your own path. What was the hardest part of watching her go through that experience, and how did it lead you to Geri-Gadgets?
I mean, it was an awfully painful process because initially my mother was misdiagnosed, and I saw
Oh,
her diminishing. I saw her. Well, she had Lewy body, and she was misdiagnosed with Alzheimer's. And early signs of dementia or Lewy body are her blood pressure dropping. And so she would get dizzy and she would be really scared about it. And she would sometimes faint, or lean up against the wall, and all that scared her. But she was forgetting things. She was in terms of not forgetting, like the early signs are more not as forgetful like Alzheimer's is. It's not like you leave the keys in the refrigerator. It's not that obvious. It was that she was paying one bill 5 times and not the other. She was misplacing, no, it wasn't like she was misplacing something. She was more paranoid. She was more, I would say, misplacing words in her mouth. So the idea would come in, but it would come out wrong. So it
Um,
was more of those kinds of things were happening to her early on. And she had a pacemaker put in. And when she had anesthesia, that's when she had no idea where she was. I'd go to the hospital to see her. And at the time, as she picks up her purse, she's pacing back and forth, and she's like, "Where are my keys? I've got it." She didn't have any idea. So I call my brother, who's on the East Coast, and my dad was dying of lung cancer. This is awful
um,
because,
um,
yeah, and he died in 10 weeks. And
um,
Gary is a physician who did research medicine for Merck at the time. He was working for Merck. And I said, "Gary, mom is losing it." And he's like, "No, no," and he's all the way on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast, right in the middle of it. And he doesn't, he just didn't want to deal with it because my dad is going downhill very quickly. And he said, "She's so, no, no, it's fine. It's just the anesthesia." But I say, "No, I don't think so." So my dad passes away, and this was in the middle of the summer. And
um,
by the time my mom goes to visit him and in the holiday time, and she packed 16 pairs of pants and one shirt.
um,
That's when he had her tested, and that's when her misdiagnosis comes up as Alzheimer's. And then
um,
and then what happens is she stays at home. He sends her nanny to live with them because she was losing weight and not eating properly, and all these things were happening. And then it becomes a roller coaster. One antipsychotic medicine after another, because they hallucinate with Lewy body just like they do with Alzheimer's, but they medicate them with an antipsychotic.
yeah,
Give somebody with Lewy body an antipsychotic. So she was home for 4 years, but it was dangerous. She was getting locked in a garage. My dad had passed away. She had a boyfriend, a partner, and she took a knife to him. It was really dangerous.
um,
Her behaviors were out of control, and these medications weren't helping. And she went into a very expensive care home, and she was put, it was not helpful. I was going all the time. It was very close to my house. And she went 7 hospitalizations, 7 medications later. And the last one, I was going 3 out of 4 days in a row, and something's not right. Now, I know my mom at this point.
sure,
It doesn't matter whether she has dementia or not. I still know when she's got a UTI. I can call
sure,
them out,
sure.
present the way they used to, but I still can tell.
Yeah,
And this last time it was, something's not right. Has she eaten? Is she drinking? She's lost a lot of weight. So she's not really very responsive. And I mean, in between these medications, I mean, everything was crazy. One had her taking her clothes off in the middle of the hallway. Another one is she's crawling on the floor like an animal. And
um,
all because it's the wrong medication because of the wrong diagnosis, right? And so
um,
I'm leaving every visit and I'm handling myself okay when I'm there, but I'm crying when I leave.
sure. Yeah. How sad.
I feel like my hands are tied, right? What can I do? It's very sad. So I go 3 out of 4 days in a row, and this last time she's non-responsive.
Uh-oh.
Now she drank, they were lying to me, and they said
Oh,
she had, but she was non-responsive. So that was a 911 to UCLA, an emergency. She had lost 17 pounds in 3 weeks.
oh dear.
She was 2 liters short of fluid. I can't believe she even recovered from that, but she did. She did, and we pulled her out of that care home and found another one, and also close to me. Thank God it was smaller. It saved her life, and that's where her behaviors were. It was scaring me because I couldn't have her at home. She was
No, I know. Yeah.
ICU, but that was 36 hours of care needed in 24
Yeah.
hours,
Yeah.
and multiple caregivers. just to get her into a shower even. And
Yeah.
so this is when, this is my turning point. I see her touching a magazine with the shiny paper, and she's rolling it in her fingers. She has one clenched hand. And I'm like very observant of her, right? You know, you taking this time to notice these things. And when you take
Yes.
the time to notice these things, you're like, she needs some sensory engagement. And that's when I started to
Oh,
bring toys from the toy department. And I brought a bucket. And it was the one with the toys, the shapes with the lid,
oh, sure.
hard
Yeah.
plastic.
Yeah.
Now, it's
The
too.
one that has the star and the square and the octagon.
Exactly.
Oh, how interesting.
But it was too complicated because of the clenched hand, and the eyes are already starting to go because of the
Oh,
cataracts, right? The aging eye. And the shapes are too hard to get in with the clenched hands and stuff. But she was curious about what was inside of a bucket. So this is where the bucket idea came.
oh,
But the plastic of the bucket is also too kind of hard edged, right? And you know,
right.
our skin gets so sensitive as we age.
It does. It does.
Mine is very sensitive, but I love the idea of the bucket. And then I went to the store. I went to the fabric store. I cut out fabric, and that's shredding. It's not
No,
washable. That
right.
was no good. I go to the, I buy all these fidget items, and most of them have things, goo is coming out. That's toxic when mouthed. It's completely not acceptable. Other things are too complicated or too babyish. It's just not
Right.
respectable. It's just, it doesn't work, right? And then they're filthy. Baby toys are just get disgusting. So then I'm in my own kitchen and I have a big pot holder, and I was like, oh my goodness, silicone is the perfect
Oh,
because
sure.
it's medical grade silicone is just a perfect material because it can withstand heat or cold. It
Right.
can withstand teeth marks, and it can bend, and it's totally durable and washable. And so that's when Geri-Gadgets bucket is like, okay, this is silicone, and all of the materials are mostly silicone that I can do. And I cut a pot holder down, took the right size, because none of them are the right shape. You're not gonna have
Yeah,
it
of course not. Yeah.
right, but the folded like a taco, it's got a great sound, and it was something we could throw back and forth, and that she was like patting on it. And this was our, oh my God, for the first time in 4 years, my mom is laughing, and
Oh my gosh.
it was awakened. That was my moment that I knew I was onto something beautiful, and this was the beginning of Geri-Gadgets, and I was on a mission to make a whole set of things that were going to work. And this was the first item. So the sensory mat became the first Geri-Gadget, and this is where the logo was born with the head and the stars in the head, because it endless
Oh,
possibilities.
of course, yes. So for our listeners, not our viewers, let's try to describe that to them. So their logo for Geri-Gadgets is literally a silhouette of a head, right? A sideways view of a face and a head, and it has stars sprinkling in the brain and the neck area. So obviously, the idea being that the idea came, and the sparkling and the idea of coming up with something brilliant came out of this brain, and that's really exciting. Let's explain to people who maybe can't see us your mat, how that about the size
Well,
and the
essentially,
texture of
it
it.
basically fits in the palm of the hand, right? And so
Right.
that hunched over like a taco, it's got the honeycomb shapes to it. And so, as you can hear maybe in the screen,
Yes, absolutely.
that it has a great crunch sound, and so it also has a great texture. And so, as we know that when somebody has dementia or any sort of cognitive, this works also for the neurodivergent and anybody with fidget things, that texture and silicone especially is extremely calming, right? It's very, very soothing. So this was very soothing. So all of a sudden, all that sort of behavior, the anxiety that she had from not being able to communicate subsided. So this was beautiful. And then, of course, she could throw back and forth because at that stage she was still very active, right? And
Sure.
it was a beautiful thing to be able to do that. So the sensory mat is basically a small frisbee.
Sure.
A
And
small,
can you throw it like a frisbee?
yes, you can throw it like a frisbee. So we threw it back and forth, and somebody that's really dexterous is able to twirl it like
Oh, sure.
a giant.
Because it's soft, but yet it's hard enough that it can stand up. It's
Right?
solid enough, I should say, not hard at all, right?
I'm not that great at this, but I have a friend that took it to his 98-year-old mother, and he was teaching her how to twist it around. I
Oh,
couldn't,
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
she has arthritis in her fingers, but she got it to do better than I do, twisting it.
Yeah, how fun.
She loved it.
Fun.
And then so the fidget Gidget bucket comes in a teal pretty blue, right? So all these colors are made for the aging eye, but they're not primary colors. So they're beautiful so that they're attractive and catching. And
And I like that. I like that they're not the primary colors. It's not the typical red, orange, red, yellow, green, blue, orange. You know, they are for the people who can't see them. You've got some primary colors in the flowers, but these are a soft blue
they're,
and a little bit more sophisticated colors. They're very soft and really, really nice.
yeah, and they're bright, but they're really soothing. And I
Yeah.
did a lot of color studies. So every detail in Geri-Gadgets is very thought out. Every little bit is on purpose. So there's definitely a lot of cause. So even though it seems simple, there's a lot of innovation and detail behind every item. So
And now you're showing us
I'm
something.
showing you what's called the tugger. These are straws and elastic, and they're also reinforced so that they're very strong. So one person can pull on it with another person also. So one user or two can engage together. So motion is lotion. So we can use our hands and arms to pull, and we're getting exercise at the same time. And it can be folded down flat.
So when it folds down, it's kind of like half a star, maybe.
There's all different shapes. So you can
Make it whatever you want.
make whatever you want. So there are endless
Okay.
possibilities to this. It's kind of origami, you know, the
Sure. Yeah, it's like plastic straws that are connected with rubber that hold it together, and people have seen these. It almost can become like a square, like a star, or
remember the girls, I was a Girl Scout, so we used to have
yes,
the shapes and ladders.
yeah, we did.
Has a bit of that familiarity to it.
Absolutely, sure we did. Yeah.
So that is also why it's so comforting. And there's a minimum, endless possibilities with how you can form and engage with the tugger.
Yes, and it's yellow and it's orange and it has some blue to it.
It has 5 different colors.
Oh, great. The purple, the red. Absolutely. Yeah, this is great.
Then we know that poppers are very familiar. This popper is high quality. This happens to be a triangle shape. The
Yes,
reason why it's a triangle shape is because it fits perfectly into the hand.
I see that.
Again, my mom had a clenched hand, so this is great. It's made a little louder than the regular popper. It's higher quality than the regular popper. Everything in Geri-Gadgets line is dishwasher safe, wipeable, machine dishwasher safe. So it can
It's
be,
great.
yeah, hot or cold
How
water.
fun.
So the popper is the triangle.
And also I'm sure that these must be good for someone helping with their dexterity, keeping their hands moving and kind of like, when we have those stress balls, but this is more fun and it keeps their fingers moving.
And the egg is a stress egg, but there's
Yes.
no goo inside, and it is also mouthable, and it's too big to swallow. So this fits in the Goldilocks, not too big, not too small, not too hard, not too soft, and no goo inside. But this can also be rolled around a table in a multi-user fashion as well if you want to have a group exercise with it.
Sure. Okay. And that's red or it's orange? Kind of
Orange. It's the Geri-Gadgets orange.
my color. Yep, absolutely my color. Okay, great. So we have an orange egg.
We have this is called the click chain. This is reinforced. There's a similar product like it, but this is re-engineered that it is louder and very, very strong. So no, it should not pull apart unless you're Superman. And it is made to sound like cracking ice or reminiscent of walking on fall leaves. So the sound is also significant to the memory. And it folds up, or it's too small to go over the head, but you could wear it as a crown or
Sure.
fold as a
But
bracelet.
they're not likely to strangle themselves with it. They won't get it over their
Head would have to be very, very tiny.
and
That's not,
probably that's not going to happen.
no.
Yeah, I think that would be really popular because it has some noise with it, right? It has the crackle sound, and you
It's
can
definitely
play with that.
popular, and the colors are really nice.
And
And
so, how many items do you have in this bucket?
this bucket has 5,
And this is the blue bucket. And what is this bucket called?
called the Fidget Gidget bucket.
The fidget gidget bucket. Great.
So these are all manipulatives of different textures to elicit different responses. So it's a single user, multi-user, group activity, if you like. And then we have the shapes bucket. I was inspired. The shapes bucket comes in bright orange.
Sure, absolutely. My color.
I love it. It's the Geri-Gadgets orange. It was inspired by Tetris. I was a big fan of Tetris, and also Lego. But instead of fitting together, it's a failure free, no wrong answer type thing. There's a smooth side that has a branded head on one side, and then the other side has stars on the surface, so it's ridged. So this is also very texturally sensitive, sensory, very much a sensory thing. And so these they're thick enough to stand up, and also if the user has a lot of later stage, they can lay them down flat. You can build anything you want, stack them. They just fell over on me right now.
Sure, but that's okay.
You can use the bucket, the lid or the actual bucket, build any shape you want. They fit together with no wrong answer though. So, but you can do however you want. And there are 10 pieces of different colors, and it's just so much fun to create. I never build anything twice the same. But these are a lot of fun. And if somebody is just interested in putting it in their mouth, that's not a problem because they
You can wash it. Sure.
right in the later stage, and they do balance off the bucket really nicely.
I see that. Yeah, I see that. You can sit them on the edge and they hold on to the side, kind of to speak. So do you find that people play with these with each other? You'll see 2 or 3 people playing together because it's kind of like a puzzle game.
Exactly, but you can't make a mistake. So that's the great part. So it's very much a sense of accomplishment.
Sure, you wouldn't have the frustration of not being able to make a puzzle fit.
Everything fits, everything goes, and they don't have to fit together. You don't have to, if they're separated and apart, that's great too. So the creativity is encouraged. That's the shapes bucket. My mother had an older brother. My mom lost her father when she was 18. So her older brother was 7 years older. He's behind me, and he's on the packaging. There's a picture of them on the packaging, and his name was Sonny, and he had Sonny Alexander flowers. So I had to do a flower bucket, which is
Of course.
the yellow bucket. And tulips are extremely symbolic because tulips rise with the sun.
Yes.
Geri-Gadgets. Somebody with dementia, later stage, wants to have their head down. And I find that when the brightness of Geri-Gadgets enters the room and you engage with somebody with Geri-Gadgets, that they rise up
Absolutely.
like a tulip.
Well, we're a Dutch family, so tulips are really important to us too, also.
And I've been to Amsterdam and the Netherlands and to The Hague, and I love them. So tulips are so symbolic to me. Anyway, the vase is orange, also your favorite color, and the vase is reinforced so that
It doesn't tip over when you put the flowers in it.
and that the flowers can go in through the vase so that they don't have to be stored in the usual quote unquote way, so that someone with dementia can stack Geri-Gadgets flowers
However, sure.
in the bucket into one another and have endless possibilities to what an arrangement can look like. And so that's what's the beauty of the flower bucket too, is that there is no wrong answer with them either.
So
And
for those people who are unable to see, I just want to explain, and you can help me, that you can put this is very unique in that you can't just stick the flowers inside the vase. You actually, there are stars on the sides, so you can stick the stem of the tulip in so that it can come out the sides. And you can have your leaves and your flowers can come out the side and form a bouquet blossoming on the outside, as well as if you just stand it on the inside, right?
thank, thank you for that. Yeah. So in and around the vase, the stems, the leaves have no wire inside. So they'll never break down over time. And it comes with 3 leaves and 4 flowers. We have a bright pink. What, I don't know, would you call this magenta?
Yeah, kind of like a magenta. Yes.
A very pretty lavender.
Beautiful tulip color.
Geri-Gadgets, orange. Now, if there's a flower exercise, live flower situation at a care home community or at home, and somebody mouths something or is tendency to put something in their mouth, they can join in with these flowers and not talk, not eat a flower that's not healthy. They
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
sleep. And that's the beauty of the flower bucket as well. Everybody likes the flowers. It doesn't matter whether they're male or female. I find that they're unisex as well.
And you can also use it to put real flowers in if that feels something for the moment, right?
Yes,
Something
and
that for the,
actually here I do have we have a lot of demonstrations with real flowers and Geri-Gadget flowers together. You can't put water in the vase except for one because they're cutouts in it. So
sure.
you can put water in the buckets and dirt in the buckets because everything's washable and the container will hold it, but the vase has got cutouts, so you
But
can't.
that's an interesting idea. Sure, you could just create a little garden in the bucket, right? And then you could even stick the vase on one end of it and put the dirt around it and give them a little activity for the day. I think that would be really interesting. It'd be fun to do. So tell me, for the people who don't really fully understand, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that dementia patients face and their caregivers face? Do you think it's the activities keeping people's minds active?
Well, I think a lot of what happens is that people, once they get dementia, a caregiver gives up. And there's a lot of lack of patience, of not understanding what to do. There are 7 stages of dementia. I don't know that everybody understands that either. And when somebody's in a later stage, they're opening up. Their engagement needs to be approached very slowly because they have limited abilities to speak and to engage, but not to give up because the engagement's still there. It's just on a slower level. So
Sure.
touch is also really important. So my brother, for example, though, people can't handle seeing somebody in a diminished state, but that doesn't mean that that engagement's not a beautiful thing, and that those moments can't be really very precious. And Geri-Gadgets doesn't is that bridge to that connection. You don't have to have a conversation.
No,
My mom didn't have to know my name.
no.
She didn't have to recognize me. Here's something that we could do together and engage without her having to know my name or me interrogate her or ask her a question or, did you eat today? How are you feeling? Who am I?
Sure.
Those are things you have to let go of. The real important thing with somebody with dementia is DARE, right? The acronym DARE. Don't argue, react, or explain, because you're not going to be able to talk anybody out of their stage of dementia. It's a
No,
diminishing return.
you
The
cannot.
important thing is to accept somebody where they are on the day they're there. There's no point in trying to do anything else because the only thing that's going to frustrate you is you.
Yes,
So
yes.
they don't know what's going on. It's not their fault.
No.
They didn't do it on purpose. They don't want to be there either. It's just that they can't. And try and remember that they're still there. Talking about them in front of them, they're still there. We don't know what our loved one remembers or is absorbing or not, but they are going to capture our energy no matter what it is. So if we're upset and angry, they're going to get it. They're going to feel that.
Yes.
We're impatient, they're going to feel that.
Mhm.
If we're loving and we're taking the patience and the time and we're touching and we're engaging, they're going to feel that. And even if it takes them time to open up, which it does, and we have that patience, they will get there for the most part. If it doesn't happen on day one, remember that day two will be different. So
Yes.
don't give up.
No.
Be
And
patient.
and they get frustrated also. I mean, they don't like it if someone is frustrated with them, right? That's not a nice thing.
Like if you say, Angela, and they don't respond in 1 second, you can't repeat Angela 10 times. That shows that you're impatient. They
Sure.
need the time to go, Angela, and touch their hand or touch their arm and give them time, like the tulip, to wake up and feel them. You know they're there. Here's a Geri-Gadget item. Hold it in their hand with them, touch them, and let them ease into it. Ease into it, and they'll come around. If you're fast and furious and impatient and where are
Right.
they going to get? Nowhere. Just
Nowhere.
you're going to feel your energy and your frustration, and it's going to be shut down, and that's not going to help anybody with anything, and especially you and them. And they can't, then you don't create these beautiful moments.
No.
It's like, that's why children do wonderful things, babies with older people, because they don't have that sense of timing as craziness. They don't understand what somebody with cognitive decline doesn't. So the multi-generational aspect of Geri-Gadgets is the most wonderful aspect of
It is.
altogether, because they're giving this respite to the caregiver in the middle, and they're giving their grandparent this beautiful engagement, the motion lotion part,
Absolutely.
and staving off this cognitive decline. And these beautiful moments are created that they'll never forget with their grandparent on both sides.
That-
And it's lovely. And there's no frustration, nothing. It's beautiful. So those are the things that we have to remember. And I don't know, that's the best advice I can give in terms of just trying to let it go and be there in the moment. And I know we as caregivers need to just take a breath and breathe and lower our expectations, because
And I think a key thing is what you're talking about is the experience of, and we have a colleague that we were talking about earlier who has a multi-generational home situation. And he talks about the experience of the children. And I have a friend who was on our show earlier, his mom has dementia, and his 4-year-old little girl goes and visits her grandma. And the experience that she'll have remembering being a part of that and how much she means to her grandma and what that experience is like. You just have to look at it that way, right? It is a part of your family experience, right?
and to shield that, my brother told my niece, who's 1 year younger than my daughter, that she didn't have to see her grandmother for the last 4 years of her life. And
Oh,
that's a terrible shame, because she missed out.
she
My
did.
daughter has a testimonial on my website that I didn't, that talks about beautiful moments with my mom, that
Mhm.
and other residents, because of that engagement, that are really, really special moments that she'll never forget, that my niece didn't get to have. And also, when you do that, I know it's hard to see somebody diminished, but there's beautiful, beautiful moments that you have to cherish. and you lose out if you walk away because it's too hard to handle. It is also part of life, and it is a huge growing issue in the world globally. 55 million people have dementia. 10 million more are getting it every year. If you don't know someone with it, you will.
You will soon. And what an experience it is, though. And that may come transfer into something else in your life, that because you had that opportunity, and it's really an opportunity to share yourself,
Yes.
really, an
Yeah.
opportunity to share yourself and to get to know that person and their experience, because sometime later in your life, you may be in a situation that it'll really mean a lot.
Yeah. Any disability. And when you see that, I mean, that's why leaving television wasn't that hard last year, because when you see that you can reach even what you assume to be unreachable, and you actually do see engagement happen to somebody say, oh, don't bother with them. They oh, don't bother. And you get that, and your heart warms up huge. It it just makes a huge difference.
It does, and just imagine what it means to the person who's experiencing the experience of the Jerry Gadgets, right? They're playing with something that otherwise they wouldn't have something to play with that day, or
Right.
to bring flowers into their life.
It just it brings joy to them in a way that you never expected. I go to a care home and there is a gentleman and his head's down and he
Aw,
doesn't normally do anything, and I hand him with a tugger, the one that pulls. I put my hands around him. Slowly, I say, "Look at the colors." And I'm pulling on it with him. I leave him there. He starts pulling on him. His head is still down. He
sure,
starts to slowly pull. Then he more rigorously is pulling it. He's exercising his hands and arms. The executive director's like, oh my gosh, he's just normally sitting there sedentary. His head
right.
comes up within 5 to 10 minutes. He starts talking. This is somebody who is never verbal. No, it doesn't matter what he's saying, but he
No,
starts going on. And his life that day is lit up like a light bulb went off, and it's amazing that he is engaged. Do the statistics are that someone's engagement is only 11 minutes a day with dementia. I think we can do
interesting.
better than that.
Yes,
And a human
yes,
being with Geri-Gadgets does not have to sit there. Geri-Gadgets have that sensory touch to them because they are silicone. That warmth is there. That's why COVID with the silicone, it's so beautiful and so washable. And that's why they got patented, because that product is so different from anything else out there. I know there are other engagement items, but this combination of non-toxic, high medical grade, high quality silicone, where it is mouthable and it is so durable, built to last, and made this way, is a beautiful thing where, it is better than medicine, better than television, because there is no better than any electronics, because those don't bring you the engagement that something like this does.
and don't you think it seems to me, when I'm listening to your story about the man who was playing with the little the toy that makes the shapes, don't you think in his own mind maybe he was wondering, what can I do with this, right? I start small and create just this little thing. And then, as you said, you saw him playing more with it and exercising more, but also maybe something in his mind is triggering, oh, I wonder what else I can do with this, right? Or with the flowers, like, oh, I wonder what else I can do. Or, oh, this is really pretty. Can I do this with it? So it must create some curiosity maybe in their mind.
Well, I think it opens up the endless possibilities of creativity, that sense of accomplishment.
Sure.
Maybe my mother used to paint. She was she was a really incredible artist.
Oh,
Never had that ability. But then it became a crayon, became a lipstick.
oh,
Are things that she could put together and create in a form of art that could otherwise not be toxic. So it establishes that. Now, I've been to a care community, a daycare community, where we've built a village with all three buckets and a group of people and
Oh, how fun.
build everything together so they can mix and match them. There's more
Sure.
possibility that hasn't been created. So everybody gets very creative all the time and they'll stack them all. Now that's nobody's going to be harmed by doing that because their
Yeah,
fields
how
are
fun.
rich. Nothing is going to cut anybody. And that's the beauty of them, that nothing is
There's nothing, nobody can be hurt by it, only benefit. So let me ask you a question. When you first started, did you just come out with one product? Was your idea for one product, or how did it develop into the three buckets?
well, I have a my CMO. She actually, I will tell you, there's a guy named Jeremy that worked with at the care facility my mom was at. He's no longer with us. He passed along.
Oh,
Very sad. And but we used to get together every Saturday, which was his day off, and go and ideate. And we brought all sorts of things. So we cut out puzzle pieces. We come up with a lot of ideas. It was a year, 2 years in the making. But when he saw my mom first do this, and the care home community had 5 other care homes. So we brought all the products to everybody to test them out.
uh-huh.
It really worked. And we honed it down. And my sweat equity partner, Pam, was in advertising, Pam Keen. She's my CMO and COO. She made me hone it down she said, keep it simple, pick
At
three.
least to start with, sure. Yes.
Yeah, and so the buckets became the idea, and I also used to call it 1,000 months because 1,000 months is our average life expectancy,
Okay.
83.2 years. My mom lived to be 83, which is really interesting that it turned out that way because I named it that. But that would be like naming the cereal brand Kellogg and then each cereal. When she said
Sure.
it's simple, we're not that big of a company, we can call everything a Jerry Gadget. It was always Jerry Gadgets, but don't have two names because they're all Jerry Gadgets.
Mhm, right. Yeah. So you started out, you created the name Geri-Gadgets. That was something you wanted to do first.
Always Jerry Gadgets, but it was like by 1,000 months. But then she's like, that's too many, you know.
Sure. So who are your primary buyers?
Well, I'm B2B, and so you do go through my website to try and get
Yes.
your home communities and things like that because it's a lot less work, to be honest. Because for me, I can't pack and ship and everything. So I do have a distribution house, and
Uh-huh.
I'm opening, and what I'm doing is growing those distribution centers so that there are more of those available and that I will be able to sell, they'll be able to sell to the consumer. Ultimately, I would love to be able to have a bigger volume where I can sell to Walmarts and Costco's and everything like that. And I'm trying to get grants and things so I can prove scientifically that Jerry Gadgets make a big difference.
Hmm.
Then I can have them insurance cover that kind of thing. I mean, ultimately, that's the goal because they do make a difference. And I have clinically proven that. I mean, they tested in Brookdale. They're not Human Good loves them. They're being piloted at other places. So
And
those
Brookdale is a company that has um, assisted living communities throughout the country, correct? That Brookdale?
Brookdale is the largest care home community
Right.
in the
Right.
United States. They trialed them before when they were in the sample stage.
Hmm.
Tested very, very well. Um, yeah, so I'm
So do they
doing.
buy them then and share them in their community rooms, so to speak?
Well, you can't, they don't have a system where the, each community buys on their own. So the answer is they don't buy them corporately for each one. It's kind of a complicated system in the US. Most communities, unless they're nonprofits, when they're private equity owned, they buy each community buys.
Yes.
So it's not as simple as it sounds.
No, I understand. So
Um,
then the families buy them? Is that what happens?
a little bit of both. So they're purchasing things from the distributors, my distributor. I'd love it to be a little more simple because now they go to my website, have to go to the distributor.
Yes, I saw that. Yes.
I wish it was direct. I'd love it to be more simple. And then there's always a coupon code. So I want everybody to use the coupon code from the distributor because if they don't, they're paying a higher price than they need to. But
Right. Yep. I understand. So when you started, I noticed you have an advisory committee or you have a board of directors. Is that the right word, or your marketing team? How did you choose those people? Did you know these are the kind of people I want on my team? Or were they people that you knew already that kind of saw your vision and jumped on the wagon with you?
well, the I my I knew a few of them, and the team of gerontologists was I met through a really good friend of mine. I was on the phone with them today. They're helping with the NIA NIH grant, which is amazing. They love the products. They introduced me to the neurologist. So I'm very fortunate that they're believers, that they're in it for the long haul because they too want to make a difference on the planet.
Mhm.
Our end game is the same.
Absolutely.
Want it to be accessible to everyone. The more we get it accessible, we don't need language. We don't need power, internet, and things like that for people to understand that we don't need directions, written directions in 100 languages. This is not complicated. And we understand that age healthcare in this sector is very far behind.
Yes.
And something,
Especially considering the number of people who are turning 55 or 65 every day. There's 11,000 people a day that are coming this age. And I was on a call this morning. They're talking about closing elementary schools because there's no young children, or not as many. But there's certainly older people, and we're not catching up with the population.
and we get to 2030, which is soon, there'll be more older people on the planet than there are younger people.
Correct.
So
There will be.
I think it's an epidemic waiting to happen. And we need to recognize that that's why the multi-generational thing about Geri-Gadgets is so important, that we need to keep people out of long-term care as much as possible. And with things like Geri-Gadgets and engagement and having a healthy lifestyle, in the Netherlands, for example, the late stage dementia's only reached 5% of somebody's life. So they can stay in and live with dementia live well with dementia for early to moderate dementia for 95% of their life and only really be sick for 6 months of someone's life.
Mhm.
That's a goal America should have. I don't know why we don't, but Geri-Gadgets are a great tool for something like that, where they're
But in the Netherlands, they're outside a lot. I mean, my husband is Dutch, and so we spent a lot of time there until his parents passed away. And we'd be there, and there'd be people, well, I'm sure they were in at least their 80s, maybe their 90s, who were still outside bicycling, right? And they walked downtown in the village, albeit, and always outside and around and doing things. Um, and they do have care communities, but not all the same. I think that that's partly of their, of their cultures. They're outside mixing with other people a lot and out seeing things. And
they're social. They
Mhm,
their family unit is more important than
mhm.
ours. We made wealth and we decided we had to live separate.
We
All
do,
of
we
these
do.
things are really important. Their diet is very different than ours. They're not a fast food nation like we are.
Not at all.
This,
Eggs and cheese and brown bread.
yeah. So, but they're examples we should follow in terms of that engagement. And they don't stay sick in late stage for but 6 months. So that would save a lot of money in the healthcare system for having things like Geri-Gadgets that are really very inexpensive comparatively.
Well, absolutely. Considering that how long they last, right? The Jerry Gadgets isn't something that you're going to have to replace every year, or
No,
that it's going to wear out, or that it's not going to be usable. So I think that that's one thing that we need to be sure that everybody realizes.
They don't wear out. If you lose a piece, that's one thing, but they will never, ever wear out. Um, they won't. They're gonna last longer than we are. And I do have a line of products after these, so there will be new ones that are introduced coming in the future. That's
So
what.
that's my next question to you is, so how do you see Geri-Gadgets expanding?
Well, that's what there is a long line of ideation that's written into the patent. So there's a lot in the future to look forward to as the product line expands, because people will want more. That's
And
fun.
will it be similar things where they're in buckets, or are you looking at something very different?
Well, I don't want to disclose all of
Of
that.
course you don't.
Mostly the bucket idea is something that I think that is staying because it's a great way to keep them together. But
Yes.
there is a ideation that's similar to that. So
Well,
that,
we're excited to watch that. So what is the one piece of advice, maybe the most valuable advice that you've received on this journey?
well, I think it's that people have advised me to hang in there. As an entrepreneur, I think a lot of people give up. And over again, I've been told, hang in there because I have something really important and not to give up because it matters. And so hearing how important it is and that it matters and that I'm doing the right thing it does keep me going.
And is there something that, if you looked back on your journey, is there something you wish you had known, or are you happy with the progress? Is there something you wish someone would have told you about either the development or the marketing of it?
No, I mean, my dad used to say woulda, coulda, shoulda's are a waste of time. So I
Yeah.
don't do that. And I'm, like I said, at the producer, the problem solver, and figuring it out has been actually a lot of fun. Do I wish I had more investor money and didn't and hadn't spent as much on my own? Probably,
Sure.
but that's part of the journey. The learning journey is great. And did I think that at this age or time in my life I would be that entrepreneur? I think that's made me younger as what
Yes,
it's what you're here talking about on a weekly basis and how important it is not to believe nothing can stop you but you. So don't let it, right? We believe our own propaganda, right? If I think I'm old, I am. If I think I'm
absolutely.
done, I'm done. If
Absolutely.
I can't do it, then I can't do
Yeah.
it. But if you think you can, you can.
And,
You know,
and
there's
there's a book called Stage Not Age, which I'll send to you. And it's about how you should live your life and how we should be looked at by our stage, not our age. Because so much of culture thinks that if you're over 55 or 65, you're elderly. And you and I know that that's not at all the case.
no, I mean, it's really what our thought process is.
It absolutely is.
If we believe that we can't, we can't. And if we believe that we can and we will. So that's it.
Unfortunately, our time is up. It has been incredible conversation, much more than I ever expected. Angela Fairhurst, her journey from Hollywood to senior care is a powerful reminder that sometimes the most unexpected and even difficult paths lead to the most meaningful work. Geri-Gadgets isn't just about products, it's about restoring dignity, engagement, and joy to seniors and their caregivers. Please come back and join us again next Monday at 3 p.m. at Always Ageless. And until then, stay curious, stay vibrant, stay bold, and as always, stay ageless.